What is up, YouTube, and what is up, Raider Nation? This is the Raiders Rundown with Wi-Fi Willie and your co-host,
Audrey Stone.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Not good at all. Just kidding. No, but I'm like very depressed, actually manic. No.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a really important story, and I want to share this to Raider Nation on the Fourth Man Up podcast. Former 7th round draft pick of the 2021 draft, Jimmy Morrisey, he was a center, went to the Texans later on. He had some words to say about Jon Gruden, and I thought this was great. You heard it earlier as well. And we're just going to play this for you guys, and then we're going to talk about it. And we have a couple more stories to bring up about Gruden in general. But just real quick, I mean, just to frame it, he does say he loves Coach Gruden and thinks he's an amazing man. So all the people who want to cancel this guy, there's people who always think the contrary, right? Yeah. All right.
That's another story. We'll get into that.
We'll get into that. So let's just play it, and then we'll talk about it.
You got to meet Jon Gruden, obviously. How is he?
Jon Gruden, I will say this, is probably one of the best coaches I've ever had.
Wow. You got to speak upon that.
Yeah, I love Coach Gruden. I really do. I think he's an amazing man. What happened to him, you know, whether you disagree with it or what was said,
he can still be a good coach through all of that. I think that's what you're trying to get at, right?
Definitely.
Like, he can still be a great coach.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Fame coach. He really is. It's a shame that whole thing went out. I think it was, you know, I don't have much to speak on that, but I can just tell you the mood around the locker room. It really felt like a funeral that week when that whole thing went down. Like, I feel it. I can't speak for everyone, but the majority of that team really loved that man. And, you know, I was only with him for a couple months, but that's how I felt about him. They cut me and put me on practice squad, and I would do anything. I would run through a wall for that guy. I loved playing for him. He was a great motivator. I thought he took a lot of time to learn his players, learn the history. Like, he was so good at, like, whatever team we were playing, he'd give like a little history about it. He would talk about certain players on the team, but then he knew every person that was in his meeting room. He knew everything about them. Like, I remember one day in camp, it was like the first or second week, he walked up to me and he was just like, Jimmy Morrisey, the Pittsburgh Panther, and he was just like, and like, I remember I was just walking through. It was an early morning. We practiced early at like 7:30 in Vegas for camp, and it was like in the morning, and he just walked right next to me, and he's like, Jimmy Morrisey, the Pittsburgh Panther, like, today's gonna be your day. You're gonna make your move here today, and like, just like those little things like that. I was like, man, like, that's Jon Gruden. Like, I'm the third string center right now. Like, he didn't have to come up to me and say stuff like that. So I love Coach Gruden, and, you know, wish him nothing but the best in the future. Hopefully he can get back. I think the game of football is better when Jon Gruden is involved. He's one of the most polarizing, you know, football personalities. And I think the game of football definitely needs a guy like him.
Wow, what a ringing endorsement for Jon Gruden by a player who was not even on the full season. So a lot of people aren't realizing this. Think about it. Jimmy Morrisey was drafted in the 7th round just this past year, and he was essentially cut. You know, he was on the practice squad, got poached by the Texans, and even he's singing this high praise of Jon Gruden. What'd you think about that piece?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's a third string center, and then Gruden not only talks to him, you know, like come on, this is not how, you know, sometimes maybe people get cold shouldered, right? Depending on status, right?
The team's big. The team's usually like a crap load of people.
Of course.
Yeah.
Not only talks, he like knows everything about him, and, you know, I don't know. It's interesting. I think maybe, I don't know, something that stood out to me was like, I think the podcast host, like, one of the first things he said was, you could still be a good coach, which has got to be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Well, yeah, he was trying to save Morrisey, right?
Someone can have like a great sense of humor, and by great, it means like incredibly transgressive or messed up, right?
I felt like he was trying to be like, oh, you could still be a bigot and a great coach. I mean, that's where he was going.
Yeah,
with
and
it,
it's
right?
like, yeah, no public-private distinction there. It's just like, sometimes, I'm sorry, but people who have personalities that maybe aren't seen as like the most moral, upstanding personality, they can have like incredible skills, and they contribute to society in incredible ways. Like, no shit, come on.
But how could you question Gruden's morality? I mean, that's.
I don't think you can question anyone based on their sense of humor.
Right, and it's like, okay, like, clearly this guy thinks Gruden's a good person. Like, Jimmy Morrisey straight up said that this is a key point that I liked in this. He said the team, like he said, the majority of that team loved that man. That's
Here's
pretty
the thing.
big.
Here's the thing for me,
And it was
though.
like a funeral when he was canceled.
Yeah, here's the thing for me. I like to just keep like the moral stuff out of it because we're not at church. People can go to church privately. They do their own thing
Right.
in their own lives. You believe whatever you want. You want to go, you don't want to go, whatever. I don't care. Leave it all out of this. Like, this is about football. And
True.
like, if you, like, I think Matt Taibbi, he's like a leftist guy or whatever, but he wrote a piece when Gruden first got canceled where it was kind of this like creative writing exercise where it's like Gruden came over to his house and then slowly disappeared. Like, because he was being canceled, and Gruden the whole time was going on about like different plays or whatever. It's like, love him or hate him. Like, you cannot deny that the man is militantly obsessed with football and is in many ways an offensive genius.
And then that's what Morrissey said. He said he's a Hall of Fame coach. And I've been saying this too. Like, not many coaches have a bowl ring.
Yeah.
Not many coaches are as innovative as Jon Gruden. Look at McVay and look at Shanahan. Two people who are seeing deep in the playoffs, influenced by Jon Gruden, straight up. The new head coach of the Packers, Nathaniel Hackett, also influenced by Gruden. I just wanted to say, though, this guy also, Morrissey, seems to think that Gruden is a good guy. He's talking about how he's going up to him and trying to pump him up and motivate him. And this just shows how the NFL screwed us this past year. Really, the Raiders, I know a lot of Raiders fans want to forget about what happened with Gruden because we made the playoffs, yay, yay, yay. But guess what? Jimmy Morrissey is straight up laying it out for us, saying, look, this team was hurt. This team was severely damaged and hindered when Jon Gruden was canceled, and everybody felt it. It felt it was a funeral there.
A funeral environment.
And look, we went toe-to-toe with the AFC champions who are in the Super Bowl right now, the Bengals. We went toe-to-toe with them, lost by a play without Gruden. Yeah. Imagine if we would have had Gruden. The sky's the freaking limit this past year, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's tough.
The funeral atmosphere is interesting because there was this anonymous source.
We'll get into that in just a second. Okay. We're going to show that in just a second. I just wanted to quickly lay out this timeline, though.
Yeah.
In the COVID year 2020 season, Gruden was fined $100K for not properly wearing his mask. In light of COVID now, just think about that. He was fined $100,000. Dude, players going helmet to helmet concussing a guy, they barely get like $18K sometimes. He had the largest fine of anyone in the past 2 years, $100K on a coach. So the NFL, we should have known the NFL does not like Gruden, even just from freaking last year in 2020. Yeah. And then obviously forced to resign in 2021. And the lawsuit, the judge will rule on the NFL's motion to dismiss Gruden's lawsuit in the court of Nevada on February 23rd. And we will be reporting on this hardcore more than probably anybody in the world at this point because we've been following this thing very closely.
Yeah, the mask thing was sort of ridiculous because he would pull it down like, whatever, in an empty stadium.
Right, yeah. And sometimes open air, right? Like,
yeah, and don't get me started on how that's like even an open question right now, their efficacy, but neither here nor there.
So here's that report you're talking about though, right?
Yeah. So this came out around, Michael Silver, this came out around like, correct me if I'm wrong, this was like right after the Bengals game.
Right. It was like the
like
pro
that.
Bisaccia moment in the media right after the Bengals game.
It was just like, oh my God, I get like, they must think football fans are just so dumb and so naive. They're just like, look, the Raiders got to the playoffs, now release this anonymous leak. If you've not learned anything from following current events in the last several years, it is complete bullshit.
Right.
It is just complete bullshit. As USA Today, complete bullshit.
Anonymous leak.
Anonymous leak says
I can't
that,
tell you my source because I promised anonymity. Yeah.
Gruden grinding is actually bad for a football team and hurts the team. I mean, it's like North Korean propaganda or something. It's just ridiculous. But it's like right after the game, so they could say, look, the Raiders got to the playoffs. How did they get there without Gruden? Like shoving it down the fans' throats. As a fan, are you going to let that get shoved down your throat?
Right.
Are you?
Do you believe this BS? And this is what this report is saying. Yeah. After hearing Jimmy Morrissey, and this is part of your point, right? Like after hearing Morrissey, this anonymous player, who knows how important this player was? Morrissey says the majority
of the they even exist.
Or if they even exist.
Yeah.
Morrissey says the majority of the team loves that man, and he said he himself loves Jon Gruden and thinks he's a great man. Now, if he's saying the majority, let's just say 70%. Who the hell is this person who's saying we didn't have Gruden grinding us late in the year and that's why we did well? The team would fall apart because Gruden would kill us. And Rich Bisaccia listened to the players and took it easy on us. Well, we got knocked out of the playoffs and maybe taking it easy. Like you're saying, is this even true? Is this even true?
It's one of those stories where it's like, okay, the Pats winning the Super Bowl after 9/11, and then, the Saints winning after Katrina. Like, it just feels a little too scripted.
Right.
That's my issue. I'm not saying it's necessarily false. I don't know. But
And Michael Silver
Yeah,
probably
I don't know.
sits on Goodell's lap, before he goes to bed. That's how close and in bed he is with, higher ups in the NFL.
All right.
Hey, why don't you ask this question? You seem passionate about it.
Do you guys think Jon Gruden should be allowed back in the NFL? Comment yes or no. Give us your thoughts in the comment as well. This has been a topic of contention this past season
Right.
for obvious reasons, but a lot of people have opined on this for the last several months. I even saw, and I don't even know if you had this on the docket, but I saw an article about Alabama Crimson Tide Reclamation Project possibly getting Gruden to cleanse him of his sins and then reintroduce him back into college and then the NFL potentially, or just college. Maybe he just has to stay down there. I think that's complete bullshit. I saw that as
Slap
a
in the
heavy
face.
article. It was just like a reclamation project. I don't know. To me, I was just like, they're just pouring salt on the wound, these people.
They have no shame.
They have no shame. They have no shame.
And it's
Look
like,
at the
yeah.
number of coaches ultimately in like Gruden's tree who are responsible for teams right now. And we're going to be talking about this later this week.
Yeah, McVay's, yeah.
Yeah. So look at the number compared to, I don't know, people like Andy Reid or something. Like, there's no question the impact that Jon Gruden has had on the National Football League. There's no question. And his legacy is being tarred. His legacy, he's being slandered right now.
I got a good
So,
point. I got a
anyway.
good point here.
Yeah.
And this is something we're going to talk about in another video. We're going to have Rod Marinelli retires, but we're also going to talk about Hugh Jackson. So go check that out on my channel.
Yeah.
Video about Marinelli. We're going to talk about this topic, which is tanking. And
Mm-hmm.
so now that Brian Flores has said he was paid to tank, look, we know that teams tank sometimes. When people have job security, like Gruden did, had a lot of job security, was able to tank and load up with hella draft picks and have 2019, the year after he tanked, arguably one of the best draft classes and for the Raiders over the past 20
Right.
years. Like,
Strategic
sure.
tanking. That's not.
And so here's the thing. People want to crap on Gruden's record. Well, he tanked a whole year in 2018.
Yeah.
So you
Very
can't
confident.
really count those losses because he went into it to tank.
He knew that he had a 10-year contract, right? This is what so many coaches, I mean, maybe someone like Harbaugh was interested in possibly getting,
Right.
right? There's so many people that would have loved that deal because you could do something like intentionally, strategically tanking, which is so common, without worrying about, obviously, job security.
Right,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we really didn't get to see what was going to happen with this Gruden rebuild. We didn't get to see it come to fruition.
It was a long plan.
I think that's a damn shame.
Yeah. And it was, look, after the first 3 or 4 games before he was canceled, like everybody was talking about, like, are the Raiders straight up going to go to the Super Bowl? I mean, they just destroyed not destroyed, but they beat the Ravens,
Yeah.
Steelers, Miami, right? And it looked great. It looked great.
Yeah.
Either way, hey, we're trying to do this channel as much as we can. We're trying to go as hard as possible. We're trying to make content full time. You want to support this channel, there's tons of ways. You could just like this video to boost us in the algorithm. So give us a like and comment on this video. Let us
up.
know yes or no about that Gruden comment. Give us your thoughts, or just let us know if you like this show. Or this is the biggest way to support us and could maybe help us if we get to about 500 members, I think, really help us go full time. I think we have about almost 60 or 70 right now. Become a member. The link is in the description. You could support the
It's
channel.
$2 a month. It's not-
And $3 a month, or if you have extra cash, there's $10 a month. And there's some perks there too as well. So consider that. So this has been Wi-Fi Willie of the Raiders Rundown.
It's been Audrey Stone.
Peace out, and y'all have a good one.
Bye.
Later.